All right, so we have a very, very special guest. It's so coincidental because the past Preach, you can bring that in if you want. The past few weeks, or I would say few days now, there's been a lot of chit chatter on the internet about the music business and specifically about music production and getting paid on time, being a music producer, being a songwriter, stuff like that. And the timing couldn't be more perfect. You know, a lot of stuff people are talking about has some to do with the business and legal stuff about it, and you know what are sort of the legal things in terms of like getting paid and stuff like that. And we have a really special guest here. He is an attorney. He does many things, and we're going to dig in. We want to pick your brain on your perspective on this. Let's give a warm welcome to my man Karl Fowlkes in the building. Let's go.
Welcome to BLAP.
So who better than to talk to an actual attorney about the legal stuff with this? Right. So first of all, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
I'm good. Yo, it's I've been getting a lot of texts about like the Megan Thee Stallion situation. Just
yeah,
like,
I bet
everyone like, yo,
here, let's get the mic.
Yeah, everyone's like, what's your thoughts on it? Yeah, so
your phone's been probably blowing up. Yeah. Before we jump into that, because I want to talk about that situation, I want to dig into the music producer side of things,
for sure,
stuff like that. But tell people a little bit about like what you do right now and like some of the stuff that you've done in the past few years.
Yeah. I mean, right now, I'm an entertainment attorney, obviously, but I also teach at the university level. I teach at Drexel in Philly. I teach music publishing. So, I mean, not more important than that, in the producer space. But I also teach like hip hop evolution at a college down on the southern part of New Jersey, right near Camden. It's called Rowan University. So we're just, teaching at the university level, building out my own curriculum.
Amazing.
And then, just a lot of clients. I would say the past 7 months have just been just getting to that bigger level of client that I've always wanted. So it's just been exciting time.
Amazing. And in terms of your clients, what kind of clients do you represent?
Artists. Well, it's funny. I have that. I remember Combat Jack used to talk about it a lot.
Shout out to Combat Jack.
Yeah,
Reggie.
He used to talk about how his practice was very fluid in the sense that he represent producers, then he represent the publisher, right?
Yep.
Then he represent, record labels, indie labels, then he represent the artist. So me, the same way. I have, management companies that I represent out in LA that are pretty big clients, and then then I represent artists on the other end. So, and then producers, I would say probably 60% of my practice is music producers for sure.
Love it.
Yeah.
Amazing. So man, you fit right into this wheelhouse, man.
Right.
Love it.
Yeah.
Facts.
So let's start with this Meg situation. First of all, we'll clear the air. I'm pretty sure all of us here are in support of Meg. We love Meg. Obviously she's an amazing artist. Yeah. So, there's a lot of talk about her contract and all this stuff, but I really just want to start with just getting right to the meat and potatoes of it, which is you sign a contract and there's certain terms on this contract and you put your signature on it. Regardless of if that contract was a good contract, a fair contract, or a bad contract, I'm pretty sure that you're liable and responsible for everything in that contract.
Right.
So, what's your opinion on the stance that she's taken, which is let me go public on this. Let me get the public's sort of opinion maybe on my side to kind of alter potentially how this can go from a legal standpoint. What's your opinion on this initially?
I mean, I thought it was a very good chess move on her part. It's funny. You kind of start off by saying we're all kind of in support. I don't know. I'm kind of like in the middle.
Let's talk about it.
Or if
you
anything,
see both sides.
Yeah.
Kinda.
So I'm kind of like, I've seen a lot of artists like like you think about when she signed that deal, you know, she didn't have any fans. She didn't have anything really.
How many years ago was this that she
There's
signed
only a
that
couple.
deal?
There's a debate whether she was when she was 20 or whether she was 23.
But how long ago was
I think
that?
those are
Like,
details.
I don't know her age.
I think she's 25 now.
Okay.
So like
it's 2 or 3 years.
2-3 years, latest 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And,
By the way, just to clear, when I said support Megan, I meant like we hope the best for her. Like we hope it works out for her.
Yeah.
But in terms of what she actually did, 50-50. Yeah.
I mean, like honestly, she's definitely finessing and doing her thing. I guess from like she hired a legal team and you know she's getting her music out. So
Like
she's attacking it. Yeah, she's definitely attacking the situation, which I completely respect.
Right.
But I just think it's like I've been seeing a lot of articles that are like, you know, this is a win for all recording artists everywhere, and I'm just not sure that's true. I mean, you know, if you sign a contract that's not advantageous to you, and then 3 years later, when you know you've made all your money or you got pretty popping, all of a sudden is there going to be court precedent that says, you know,
well, you can leave now.
you can leave if those terms were you're not advantageous to you. Like it's a production deal, right? You know what production deal is good.
Yeah.
I've never seen a production deal that like I was like, yo, I want you to sign this. Like, no, there's times where it's like, yo, I mean, there goes that guy who has a proven track record of helping people, and you know, you don't really got nothing else going for you. So
exactly.
And that's where that's kind of the other side of it too, right? Where you start to kind of have those conversations where, okay, when you were starting up, you didn't really have funds, you didn't really have a team. So this kind of positioned you to level up in a sense. So in that kind of situation, the other side does have more leverage because they're investing more, you know, but I guess it's a matter of how much leverage, what are the terms? And I don't know, it's really interesting. Like you say, you don't think it's a win. I think the biggest win is the knowledge. Like now you guys know that you got to read your fucking contracts or get an entertainment lawyer.
Did she have anyone look at it, or did she just sign it because she was cool with the, you know, they thought they were all love and family and all that?
So it's funny, man. Some of my tweets, like, you know, I'll tweet them out, and I know other lawyers probably are kind of upset, but I'll be like, you know, I don't know why y'all keep using lawyers that they give to you. Like, that makes no sense, like at all.
Right, because they're working in their favor, not necessarily yours.
It's like, come on. And then, you know, on your come up, like in any of your professions, like it's like you probably do things that, you know, you either regret or, you know, aren't as honorable as you want. So it's like I've been in positions where I might have been that attorney, and I either had to turn it down or I had to like really you know, look myself in the soul. So it's like, no, you need your own attorney for sure.
It's so interesting because I put myself in both of their shoes, put myself in her shoes, the artist's shoes. We won't even say Megan, just in general, because she's not the only artist that's been through this.
And we talk about this all the time.
So you put myself in the artist's shoes, put myself in the management company shoes. So when I think, okay, put myself in the management company shoes, I find a new artist. She has 1,000 Twitter followers, Instagram followers. I think she's very talented. I feel like I could make her into a star. I give her some bread. I present a contract that's, you know, version 1.0 is lopsided towards my favor. Right. Always. I'm an idiot if it isn't.
Right.
She signs it. We're all good, right? She agrees to the terms, assuming she had her lawyer, all that. After 3 years, I successfully, you know, get her on the main stage. She's blown up. She's got, you know, 1.5 million followers. Everything's great. Now she turns around and says, hey, appreciate your help. I'm bigger than you now. I'd like to move on. Do you really expect me to just say yes and be okay with that?
This has happened so much.
It's very, you
and
know.
It also happens, you know, with artists and managers, producers and artists, where some artists just go to the bigger guy.
Yeah, and you know, I don't think Uzi's contract ever came out, but you know, it's a very similar, and he signed a Roc Nation Management, which makes it very eerie and similar. But and there was a Jay Prince post, and you know, I'm not afraid of nobody. But Jay Prince starts talking. I'm like, all right, He started talking about how, you know, Roc Nation Management had like a history of this and sort of getting involved and meddling with, and it's like, look,
is that wrong though?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's like it just happened before. This is something that like continuously happened. I think the reason why this is getting so much attention is I don't think it's ever gotten this far and been on the conscious of like, all social media platforms. So it's very hot right now.
But do you look at that as a pro or a con? For instance, a company like Roc Nation, to be kind of a part of that process with the artist, because you have to think about it. If, let's say, an artist did sign a shitty deal, with someone, if there's someone coming to the table and saying, "Yo, you signed a shitty deal," like you can do better.
I think what we have to think about is what is considered a shitty deal. I think for most people, a shitty deal is a deal where they don't get everything they want. And if an artist got everything they want, it would look like this. Give me $1 million. I want to keep all ownership of my songs. You don't get any percentage of my music or my tours or my merch. Right. So that being said, in your opinion, Karl, what is how important is compromise in the music business? Because compromise is everything. I understand leverage, if you more leverage you have, there's maybe more things you can ask for or more things that you have leverage on. But in terms of compromise, there is no perfect contract. So as an attorney, how does compromise, come into play with this?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like just in general, especially being a minority, the way we approach business is super adversarial and like super so a lot of my clients are usually like, oh man, like, that's crazy, I don't even want to do this. And it's like, bro, like that's just not the way it works. So it's just trying to get people's acumen and sort of, because when you embrace it, compromise and negotiation becomes a lot easier and less contentious, because when that paper gets signed, a lot of times the damage that was done in that negotiation process comes out, in that first year or so, because like everyone's sort of like still reeling from that negotiation. So I think just the way most musicians, especially minority musicians sort of approach with that sort of super skeptical, like, and you got to be skeptical, but it's a position that's dangerous, because at the end of the day, they're your partner once you sign that deal.
Exactly.
It's a partnership.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's shift this conversation to the music producers, obviously, right? So another topic of conversation this week has been the whether or not to send the stems convo. So let's talk about that for a second. So as a music producer, let's start a scenario. I'm a brand new music producer, maybe been grinding for like 3-4 years. Finally got my beats into the hands of a major artist, someone that I really want to work with, someone that I think will change my life. They are interested in a beat that that they heard from me. And they hit me up, maybe their manager and A&R, they hit me up and they say, hey, we want to use this beat. The artist loves it. But we need the stems in order to record this song. Now, as an upcoming producer with no manager, no attorney, this is your first time dealing, even potentially getting a major placement. What would be sort of the proper or the best thing to do in that scenario? Do you give the stems up and give up your leverage, or do you say, hey, I can't really give you the stems right now. I haven't signed anything. If you present some type of agreement, then maybe I can give you stems, blah, blah, blah. How does that play out in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have any representation, it's a major label placement, I'd be like, one, you should probably, as soon as the major label placement happens, like definitely get an attorney. That's how I would say first. But I mean, if you didn't, this happened, but they try to call me after and I have to clean it up. And it's usually like, just it's too late. It's like, bro, we gotta move on to the next beat. Like, you signed away your points, or like you signed away, like there's or you're publishing. Why are you getting 30% publishing and there's no one else? And there's like a sequencer getting 20 or 50.
So they would sign it and then go to you and to try to fix.
So well, yeah, they'll sign 2 or 3. I mean, this happens like clockwork. Like they'll sign like 2 or 3. I guess they think they probably can't afford me or something like that, so they don't want to like call me or, you know, waste my time. So I get like 2 or 3, and then like the 4th one might be a little bigger, or they're trying to maybe like a company like Create Music Group like will send them like a small pub contract, and they're like, okay, now's the time to call an attorney. And then I'll be like, all right, yeah, let's look back at your contracts.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of these kids are like turning 18, like or maybe just turned 18, and I would say send your stems though, because it's like you get
the opportunity.
Right.
Yeah, you can figure that out.
We
later.
all took L's too. It's like, you know, I've done work for free, like, and then really reap any benefits. Like, you know, we've all done work for free, so you gotta send your stems. Like,
we are all in agreement with that. We talk about that on this podcast, the stems thing. Go ahead.
I mean, I recently I spoke about this last episode. I think it was last episode where an artist asked me for the stems, and I sent it immediately because we were texting and we were going back and forth on the beat. Like, he said, yo, speed it up. All right, try this, try that. And he's like, I want to record to this right now. Send it. And for me, why would I say no? Like, I mean, I could sit there and say, nah, man, let's talk about like what I'm getting first, you know, let me send you a agreement. And that just fucks up the whole vibe. You won't trust me.
Yeah, I mean, and then you gotta like, for lack of better, you gotta know your body. Like, I mean, I couldn't imagine like me going outside, like even if I found some, like, you know, just be like, oh, we turning up. Like, I'm getting an attorney, or Jay Princeton, or I don't know what's happening, right? Like, so you got to know your body, like.
And I think also, especially if you're a new producer, you know, and you're about to work with a big artist, like, it's more valuable to try to create like a positive relationship with the people you're dealing with, because I mean, you don't really have the leverage to say, hey, I want paperwork, or so it's definitely a slippery slope, right?
Artist to producer is tough though, right? It's just like anyone doing a business, it's tough. Like, that's why I'm always just like, once you get to that point where you're like, you know, working with bigger artists, like, you know, you should just kind of be working and then, you know, contacting each other's representatives, and, you know, going back and forth.
And that's the thing, like, you can speak on a creative level with the artist, right? Because I find it easier to text the artist or call the artist and be like, yo, I got some shit for you, let me send it to you, versus having to reach the manager and email the manager beats, and then they don't, you know, like, as artists to producer creatives, it's easier to develop that relationship, but you also have to know when to say, okay, your manager's contact or whoever, so we can start talking about agreements and terms, you know, because once you start talking like that to the artist, they're like, man, look, I can't fuck with you. Like, I'm just trying to make music. So you have to know really how to maneuver that situation.
And it's like, we all like, getting back to it, it's like we all going to take some L's. I'm sure y'all, you know, everybody here has done stuff for free and then get compensated.
To quote the great Seth Godin, who's one of my idols, when people fail, this is like, I'm butchering the quote, but basically what it says is, like, when most people fail, they think it's a failure. And, you know, when people win, they think it's a win. But really what happens is, when you fail, failure is the thing that happens right before the win.
Right.
So, you know, you can't win until you fail first.
You know.
It's the failure is the requirement to get to the W. So you need to, it's would make sense to maneuver in such a way where if you do come across a failure like something like this, an L, you know that the win is about to happen
for sure
very soon. And I think a lot of people maneuver, I want your opinion on this too, you know, people maneuver in a way where they're just looking for wins and they don't want these L's, right? And so just from your standpoint with the different people you represent, you know, what is your counseling sort of look like, you know, when you represent like upcoming producers or artists? Like, do you kind of shed light on stuff like that, like when you're negotiating on their behalf?
Yeah, I mean, I just did a deal with Columbia for one of my artists, and you know, I've been with him kind of for like, he's a young Philly kid. Anyone knows where Camden is, right across the bridge. So Philly's like my backyard.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time him and his manager came to my office, you know, they don't got too many streams. Like, you know, he's like, yo, I want a distro deal, 50-50, own my masters, you know, I want a partnership, 100, you know, and I'm like, bro.
You're like, okay.
Yeah, but like, I'm not going to say I'm blunt or mean, but like I'm as honest as you
realistic.
but I'm like honest in the sense like, bro, like you haven't even realistic. Got 500K streams. Right. Like you sound crazy. And you know, it was just that honesty early in the process. I think with somebody who was like there and they trusted. You know, when the bigger deals came, I think there was more of just a sense that like
you had his back.
Yeah, I had his back, and like, you know, we should. You have to take risks, like, or you're not gonna win. So like, and I also try to explain to like not too many people have a great first deal, like especially if you're an artist, like, you know, when you probably sign that record deal, you're giving and taking on some stuff that like, you know, that's just the reality of it. You might have more option periods than you want. So you know, it might be a 1 album deal with 3 options, essentially making a 4 album deal. And that's a lot, right?
Yeah. Again, the compromise thing we were talking about.
And also leverage. Like what leverage do you have to even negotiate such terms, you know?
Yeah.
That matters.
I still, like, I'm cool, right? Lawyers are dope.
Right.
But like, how much does it really matter?
What's
like,
the work like?
Yeah. Like, how much does it really matter? I only can do so much. There's a point. Like if it's Drake, I mean, I'm excited. Yeah, let's go. Like we got one. Like we all about to do the biggest deal anyone's ever seen. No. There's a couple others like that. You know, the kid Arizona Zervas. Like that wasn't my deal, but you know, he was able to like just come in there. He had a record that was #1 on Spotify off DistroKid. So you know, he was able to like come in there. And just beat people
I want
head.
this. I want this. I want this.
What would make you turn away? Like
happens all the time. It happened today. I mean, even something I might have made a lot of money off of. Yeah, I mean, I'm like,
how much of it is personal? Like, oh, do I want to deal with this person?
The personality, like the vibe. Or,
do you take that into account?
Well, yeah, me personally, just because I'm a young black kid in you know, where I'm from, you know, the area is like, you know, it's been tougher and tougher for me to work with like kids holding guns and videos, like stuff like so. Especially because I'm 27 years old.
I think I seen you tweet something. You were like, "This ain't it."
Yeah, I mean, I've had rappers come to my office like in Philly. Philly's just a whole different.
It's a whole animal. Yeah.
Yeah, just that's the street of the streets, like in the country. So it's like I had an artist come in and like fight like his man, like, you know, kind of start fighting in the office. I didn't know what was going to happen, and then it was just that kind of was like the first day. I was like, yo, I'm probably
what did I sign up for?
I helped call one of my boys, the manager out in LA. I'm like, dude, send me a like Asian pop client. I need K-pop. I need
Let's get some of that K-pop in there.
Yeah, no, it happens all the time. Like, or if it's a situation where it's like a production deal, for example, like where I have some friends, like, you know, they have a history of just they running it up. Like they sign somebody early to a production deal, and then, you know, they use their connections and plugs, and they run it up. It's like a three month window, and, you know, they start a production deal, but they know what they're doing. So sometimes I feel less bad about those, because I'm like, oh, you're signing to someone who's a track record, and there is some give or take. Like that person definitely got you 400, 500K more dollars than you would have seen if they discovered you on your own.
Right.
So there has to be some understanding there, but I turn down a lot. I turn down a lot.
Wow, interesting. So if you are an artist or a producer and you come across that first deal on your table and you don't have an attorney, what would be your advice in terms of finding an attorney? You know, is there websites? Do you go on Instagram? Do you do hashtag searches? Do you call people? What's your advice on that?
Shit, I can't even tell you, to be honest with
you. That's a tough one, right? That's the $1 million question that everyone's trying to figure out.
I started like on the culture side. Like, you know, I've been doing music adjacent stuff and music stuff since I was like 18. So it's like, you know, I came up with the New York kids, like, you know, when I went to college at St. John's.
Nice.
So a lot of the A&Rs, a lot of the people like that, like, you know, we used to party.
So you've had those relationships.
So I've had those relationships. And that sort of just got me sort of in the music community, you know, at a younger age. So like usually a lot of times, you know, a person might know about me just through that. And then, you know, obviously Twitter. But like a lot of the internet attorneys aren't really in the game though.
Right.
Like,
they're just talking.
They just talk.
Like, I think I find it weird.
Internet shit.
Is it, what do you call those?
We were just talking about
We had a whole episode on this.
Entertainment lawyer influencers.
Oh, man. There's a fucking...
Entertainment lawyer influencers.
Yeah,
Hit me up, influencer LLC, ESQ.com.
A lot of them aren't in the game, and that's just the reality of it. So,
It's different.
It's hard. It's not trustworthy. Some of them.
Yeah, but then you go to the other guys, and it's like a very other guys or girls. You go to a, you know, it's a very archaic system.
Yeah,
like
it's so interesting Instagram because there's very, very powerful attorneys and just music industry people in general. And you go to the Instagram and they
like
have
10 followers,
they have 350 followers,
Yeah.
and they just look
4
like,
pictures.
and they don't have anything in their bio.
Yeah, 4
Yeah.
pictures.
but a lot of them are shifting that though.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, they are.
Because that
no,
brings
are.
you business.
But
I
think
know a
it's
lot
very
of people
interesting.
like doing big deals or like who are legends who are like yeah, like they're online. Like, you know, we follow each other, we tap in. So Instagram is cool. I think
interesting.
It's
you
a
get it from
business.
Instagram. But like I think you got to do your own. These kids should know how to like see who's following each other, see who's putting comments on people's photos and stuff like that to see if someone's like really in the game. Like
Exactly.
Right,
yeah.
that's true.
But,
What's your opinion on LegalZoom? Should someone go to LegalZoom.com and be like, "Hey, can you help me with this Drake contract here?"
Nah, that's
No,
crazy.
please don't do that.
Go to
Yeah.
LegalZoom.
Yeah.
Do not do that.
I would say like you. And another thing too is like you almost have to only be a music lawyer.
Yeah,
Like not
you
even
do.
just like an entertainment or an art lawyer. Like, you know, I almost have to take that out of my bio and just say music lawyer, just because it's like the nuances of it are changing every day. And I'd even say this, like, you know, even attorneys who have 40 years of experience, like the game shifted 10 years ago and it shifted vastly, you know, a couple years ago, and it just keeps technology driven. So it's like, you know, I think even more so now, and this isn't like, you know, putting anything on myself, but it's like, I would probably want a younger attorney now for most of my stuff. But I get the advantage of going to an older attorney during deal time, just because a lot of the label heads and, you know, it took me a couple go arounds to understand like, yo, it is like a relationship game. I've seen like someone run a deal up that, you know, if I was involved, like we would have got a great deal, but you know, someone else came in and kind of just ran it up a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let me ask you something that is sort of a misconception to people that haven't experienced this yet. But basically, there's this idea that attorneys sort of know each other, or they know about each other. So let's say you are that same producer in that position that we were talking about earlier. You get this major label placement, and then this big artist attorney is sort of waiting for a response. And then you say, "Hey guys, I've CC'd my attorney, blah, 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 blah." Now, I'm assuming that the first thing that the other attorney is going to do is say, "Okay, who the fuck is this attorney?"
Right.
And they're going to look them up, maybe look them up on LinkedIn, see a call around. Is that kind of thing happen, you think, in the attorney world?
I
You
mean,
do, right?
Every time.
So it's like, all right, let me do some research on who I'm, negotiating
But
against.
it's so if you're like in the game though, it's really, 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 really small.
Yeah.
So it's like there's not too many I haven't seen at
Right.
this juncture. But yeah, every time I don't know someone, they have like a fairly big client or pretty big client, I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
Right.
Yeah. Why are you-
Where are you from? And
Where
then-
are you
This guy,
from?
right?
Yeah, like I mean, sometimes, especially like the southern attorneys, like there's some in Florida that are like, all right,
Just
yeah,
out of nowhere.
but they got big clients. I was
Yeah.
like, all right, cool.
Aside from you helping your clients, you also do interesting things like moderate panels with
Right.
producers or producer managers. So
Right.
how did you start doing that?
Yeah, I mean, producer grinds, the homies, like, you know, I do their legal work. That kind of that
I
started
love
too.
produce. I love those guys.
Yeah, so we did a couple of town halls, and you know we're going to do a couple more in LA later in the year. So that was just sort of, I went on their podcast maybe a year ago, like basically a year ago today, and we kind of just talked about it there, and we just started executing and just trying to. Then we got Sonny involved, and Sonny's crazy. So Sonny was with the shits. He was going to say anything and everything. So yeah, we just started like bringing awareness. So I feel like a year after the fact, and guys like you've been doing this, you know, for a super long time.
Yeah.
So you know, it's funny because you can see the consciousness starting to raise
Right.
amongst the internet and the music business community
sure.
that like
'Cause people
producers
don't
are
wanna
getting
get screwed over. Yeah. People,
It's an awareness thing though. I do the panels and you know all that stuff because it's like we're not gonna be able to do much until like the other side knows there's a problem.
Yes.
Like
amidst the problem.
Amidst the problem,
They
knows
know.
and like feels it.
But a lot
And
of
the
people know the problem. They just don't want to admit it.
Right.
Because they
Also,
have to make changes.
Yeah, it's just
I don't
sort
think
of,
they care. Like
they don't care. It's
no
just business as
repercussions.
usual,
Right.
and they're not feeling it.
There's really no. There's still to this day like, cool. I'm gonna, I advocate yada yada yada. There's only so much stuff I can do. What, are you gonna take the record down? I always say that. Like that's almost like, well, bro. At some point, either we're gonna take the record down or we're not, and we just got to keep like banging on their door for payment. Like that's really kind of what it comes down to.
I seen a tweet yesterday because of this whole conversation with, I'm not sending stems unless I get paid. And somebody made a comment where I was like, yo, that's so fucking true. Where producers are the last people to really get what they deserve. Like everybody gets paid in the process, and the producer at the end is always still having to negotiate something,
right?
Payment, waiting, and that's lame because a lot of it starts with the producer. Like
it's just the labels processes aren't sophisticated enough.
Exactly.
Like I don't
care.
And I don't think they care yet. It's not one of those things. Usually it's like somebody is not pushing a button internally. And that's why someone's not getting paid. Like
I really do. This is what I think. I really do think that proper legal representation is a huge part of the answer, in my opinion, because I think that there's enough upcoming producers who are willing to sign version 1.0 of the contract with no attorney and get paid $500 12 months from now. There's enough talented producers that are willing to do that are making it more difficult for guys like us, people like us, to put our foot down.
Right.
And I think that's where the problem is. And so you're right. I think creating awareness is this whole thing. But then this also sparked an idea. And correct me if this exists already, but what if there's like a website or a portal? Maybe you can work on this with Producer Grind.
It sounds like you're saying something that we're kind of already working on.
Okay, a portal to where, hey, I'm an upcoming producer. I have, finally my first major placement. They just emailed me the PDF of the contract. Before I load it up into DocuSign, let me upload it to this portal, create a membership profile, and give the contract, and then basically what you're doing is you're submitting the contract to this portal, and then at the portal there's attorneys that will look at it and they will say, yes, I'll represent this, or they'll reject it. Just a standard place that they can go.
It's semi-union like, right? It's almost like a grievance process.
Yes.
That's why it's like, we've been talking about, a lot of people have been talking about the union. But one of the things that, I'll credit Sonny for was when we were having conversations, a lot of it stemmed with the relationship with the label, right? I always feel like you should get me involved as early as possible because I actually just know that admin person at Universal. So it's like, we could just fight over here, or I'll just send her an email and say, she'll say, here's the invoice, and then, we'll get paid.
Because of your relationship.
Because of my relationship. Right. And there's enough people with relationships who could start streamlining these placements and create. But you need the labels involved. It's like this is a sit down with, they got to see value in it. And the first one that like sees value in it is definitely gonna get a lot of positive press. So that's what I'm trying to like, yo, Columbia, like Atlantic, yo, if you do this, you'll be the first one, and it's not like you're doing anything that's out of contract. You usually owe these producers money. You're bringing some transparency to the game, and all of a sudden you become a champion.
That's a legacy play for an executive. That's straight up.
I think it's cut and dry.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I think it's simple. Like,
yeah, it's crazy. Legacy play, AKA the right thing to do that you should have been doing for the past 50 years.
But I think also, artists and producers should be filtering out entertainment lawyers themselves, not just trying to see what entertainment lawyers would want to help them with their contract. I want to know, who have you worked with?
Right.
What relationships you have? How much can you vouch for me? So I think it's really important for artists and producers to also kind of, navigate the field and see who can help them the most.
I would say too, it's like one of the things that producers and artists, that, the misconception about entertainment lawyers, most of them is like, that they're going to do more than just look over your paperwork.
Right.
Most of them, even your favorite ones, are going to just look over your paperwork. So I always say, like, I'm pretty out the house, and I also go to sessions. You know, I also send. I'm always like, yo, send me your latest pack. You know, because that A&R is like hits me up and says, yo, you know, let's do that. Yeah. So you know, I've gotten my producers placements.
Yeah. Everyone wins.
Right. Everyone wins.
But you also have a bigger vision, I'm sure. It's not just about like being an entertainment lawyer and helping be the mayor of contract.
Yeah.
You're serious. Like I'm not. Yeah, you're not. I won't be in music business that long. Like,
you're not just like in the office going over terms.
You're not just like looking over terms. You have a bigger vision when it comes to helping creatives, basically.
Right.
Even with like your music publishing test, I saw that you posted.
You know how many people took that?
So what's up with that?
I took an exam.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So I teach music publishing at Drexel. So I mean, I was like, why not just use an old final and like throw it up and let people sort of test their knowledge? I mean, simple as that. Like I didn't think anything of it.
You tweeted it first, or
I tweeted it maybe like 5 months ago and just went crazy. Like I was like, this is the weirdest thing ever.
You onto something.
But I don't want to even like. I just thought that was weird because I know half these people have never took a test in their life or wanted to.
Why?
Take a
Because
test.
of the results, or
not even. The results are pretty good. Yeah, but. Why would you want to even take this?
Yeah.
But there's
what do you mean? Why?
Because it's not interesting for most people.
No, but it also helps them realize where their kind of knowledge is and what they need to be skilled in for themselves. And that goes back to contracts.
But that's a very logical answer. Like, how many of these people, and I'm not like saying just the producer community, I'm talking about like everyone in the world almost. How many people are like, yo, I'm going to like, on my spare time, I'm not going to get any credit. I'm not going to get anything from this except for betterment of myself.
But that's the answer there. It's kind of like studying, right? It's like studying. It's like doing research. Let me test my skills in this area to see what I need to improve myself on. It's kind of like right now, a lot of people might not do it because that's why you get an entertainment lawyer. Right. But if you threw up a contract, like a test where you put up a recording contract or a producer agreement and you ask questions in regards to, okay, if you're a producer and you read this contract, do you understand these terms? That might help people kind of.
Right. But it's funny. It's like I'm on that border of though, like a lot of attorneys probably being upset because it's like it's a self-preserving universe, right? It's like, what are you doing? Like, we almost want people to be.
No, I mean but obviously, but people still have to be knowledgeable because then you get into those situations where you sign a contract, you don't even know what it says. You're not going to represent yourself, but you, at least if you read it, you're knowledgeable enough to say, okay, this is what that means. Cool. You obviously still want an entertainment lawyer to handle the business because you're just a creative, but just kind of, understanding what things mean.
And the thing is too, it's like we should all realize too, is like you get to a certain level in your business, it's like you're not handling you don't at all. Who the hell would want you to handle that? So you're gonna it isn't really self-preserving because I think it's more about serving the community that's like that you're a part of, like, and that's just that value add that I think people have to just start attacking life with, like, how can I bring value to this community? Or it's like artists, a lot of times I'm like, yo, your music's not popping because it's like not serving anyone and not doing anything for anybody. It's just like maybe a record that you hear once, you're like, oh, this is all right, next.
Exactly.
I'm sure there's a lot of music producers watching this now that would want to take that test and see where they're,
I might take it down, to be honest.
Why?
It's like blowing it's like
too much. Too much.
My website service, I gotta get like the bigger one.
Yeah, you have to upgrade.
It crashed my
Just start charging $5 to take the test.
And I don't even want to, it's funny, that's where I actually say I don't even want money for it.
Exactly.
But that just goes to show you how many people are interested in that. You know what I mean? So that's not a bad thing.
It's a funny.
You got 300 students.
It's a funny, and I'll start, I got everyone's email and stuff, so I'll start probably blurting stuff out. And
you never know how many of those people will convert into clients.
But I'm telling you, I'm not even in the client game because I don't want that many clients. Like literally, I can't service. I'm not even a benefit to my clients if I'm like taking on
too many.
For sure.
So like at this point, I'm like super selective. Like, But like if it's a one-off, like someone's like, yo, look over this like producer agreement with like a major label, I'll help you out for like a small fee and we'll keep it pushing, and you can come back if you have any other questions.
And you might find a producer that you really fuck with their music and that could turn into something else.
I do that more. So another thing is now is like I'm only really working with people I'm like, yo,
you
this
believe
is
in.
like, this is. I got 2 producers in Philly who like one guy named Othello who's like super hard, and he was one of those guys that invested like. One of the reasons why I respect this kid heavy, you know, he was out in LA with me like 2 weeks ago. And he, rest in peace, his first big one was a Pop Smoke P&B placement. It's a song Like Me. So, and you know, I kind of helped facilitate for that with because I know Steve and Victor very, very well. But like this kid was like invested like $15,000 in ads and just got super popping on the YouTube.
Right.
And but the fact that you invested one in your business and yourself, that much money, I was like, yo,
So does he?
You're built for it.
What does he post on YouTube? Like Type Beat?
Type Beats. Does it on Facebook too? Instagram ads, Facebook ads, and you know, one, he was just making a lot of money on that end, and then 2, it started picking up, and you know, now we're sort of in the phase of just starting to. All right, I think you need to start. 1, use less samples.
Yeah,
like, please use
Yeah.
less samples and start focusing on, you know, because a lot of people know you in the producer community, but start focusing on, you know, keep building actual sounds with artists.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
the
the
secret
music.
sauce.
Yeah. To me, where the producer game is going is, you know, it took time for a YouTube community to build, the Type Beat producer to build, the BeatStars producers of the world, and then, you know, the industry producers. But now it's sort of like, well, if you can do it all, and we're sort of seeing that you can kind of do it all, is that something that you would maybe like, you know, the type of advice you would give to your clients is, well, if you want to do the YouTube thing, let's do that. But let's also do the, you know, let's get some placements too. What's your opinion on all that?
I think producers are crazy for not being on YouTube or not being on Spotify or dropping their own lo-fi tapes or stuff like that. And I'm also tired of producers not putting their face up on their page. I think it's like for branding purposes. It's like football
You got to
players.
show yourself.
You know, it's like
That
the football.
actually kills me. Like,
Yeah.
because I get a lot of producers that follow me, obviously.
Yeah.
And you know, I watch everything that's going on my social media, you know, and I'm like, okay, who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you? And I get so many people that are like, let's collab. And one, come on, we know
It's like, I know what your computer looks like. Yeah.
right. Your graphics.
And I talked about that when I did the producer grind interview. I just think that like producers are like, you know, archaic in that sense. Like you have so many routes now, I think, to get money. Like a lot of routes.
Yeah.
And to brand yourself.
And to brand yourself. So it's like, you can make a lot of money not even getting that many placements. Because placements, I'll be honest, unless you're getting hits, like publishing's a very hit-driven business.
Yeah, it is.
You know, we look at the breakdown of, you know, income. $1 is generated on Spotify, right? 30% goes to the DSP. 60% goes to the major labels, about 59%. Or the artist, whoever owns the music. The other 10% is publishing.
Yeah.
Like that's the small nature. It's 5 to 1. It's like there's not that much music money in publishing unless you really make hits and you start getting radio play.
Yep.
And so you could talk to producers, like they'll have 5 Lil Got It placements, and you know they'll think they're like this ASCAP BMI check's going to be big, and it's like $300 or something, right?
Yeah.
So you need more. Like you gotta be like, yo, and the answer isn't always let me get more placements, even though you definitely want to run that. You definitely want to run that up. But I'm also like, yo, I mean,
other avenues.
You need to hit records.
I'm about to hit the DJ circuit.
It's so interesting because when you hear the stories behind actual hit records, the way that they came about is always just so unpredictable. So unpredicted. Like just like even my man OZ, who's been killing it lately. Like I've been knowing about OZ since 2013. You know what I mean? And like he's just like from Germany, I think. And so his come up is inspiring, and just all of us is like there's always a unique story behind it. Like you can't Instagram ad your way into a hit record necessarily, right?
It can happen out of luck.
You could.
BeatStars,
like,
well, yeah, Triller. Oh, yeah.
I mean, because we've
sure.
seen stuff with YouTube, right, where producers would get. Like,
I get a lot of producers who got their first placement off of YouTube, or in the pack game, sending out packs, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I think people are sending out packs to the wrong people.
Right.
Like I think people are sending them to artists directly. I think you need to be sending them to artists directly, and then then obviously the A&Rs and building that relationship with A&Rs. They do I know a lot of A&Rs who do like producer pull-up sort of things. You know, even New York City. Yep. So it's just about tapping into the underground. It's
exactly.
Like,
and then diversifying your relationships too. Like, don't just focus on building with the artist. Like you said, build with the A&R. Shit, even entertainment lawyers like you that are kind of helping your clients get placements. So speak to the people that are around you that have access to other people in the music industry, because you never know who could be the person that'll be like, yo, I know. So it could be, you know, your engineer's friend that's like, oh shit, you know, I know Quavo,
and you got to get out of your crib, bro. Like, you got to get out of your crib. Like, take that trip to LA, tap in, try. I always tell some people, I'm like, go to LA, like book a studio for the weekend. Exactly. And all them artists that you were kind of tapping in with, tell them to pull up. Like,
I think a lot of people that are like want to be the home bodies are people that just make beats and post them online and get money that way and don't care about building relationships. Because, you know, and I spoke about this at the panel earlier today, relationships are important, networking, you know, being outside, speaking to people, having those interactions, you know. But there are a lot of people that are cool with just whatever money they make from home by selling their beats, $50 a beat.
People think you got to be either or, and for the most part, I guess there hasn't been anyone who really started getting a lot of placements and still kept
being at home,
being on their YouTube hustle. Like, so I think there's this thing where like most producers are like, yo, I'm either a YouTube producer or I'm a placement producer. And that's always interesting to me too, because I'm just like, I mean, what are you just letting all these beats sitting on your it
depends on your vision too, because we've had that conversation on the show before, where there are people that just want to be at home and selling beats. They don't want to be at parties. Preference. They don't want to work with Drake. They feel comfortable making $50,000 a year by
I
just
want to
selling.
work with Drake. I'll take your facts.
You know,
with me.
but you know, some people just do it for fun. They do it at home. They got a family. It pays the bills, and they're not worried about hustling. I mean, I'm sure ideally they want to work with Drake. They're like, I'm cool with how I'm making my money.
They're not going to put effort into it.
It depends on your vision, really. You know. Depends where you want to take it.
Yeah, I love where this producer community is going, because you really can do everything, you know? And I think it's taken for certain people to like break the barrier down and like prove that you can.
It's like it's a culture though, for sure. Because it's like, I think we all know like the different players in the community, like who have voices, and it's like, it's definitely a funny space.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's all jokes.
No,
but
look,
I do think
we have a whole episode talking about that.
Yeah, but I do think that also what's getting easier is the fact that people are having these conversations, and you know, the uncomfortable conversations, and stating their opinion, and kind of outing people, saying I was in this unfair deal, or you know, I didn't get whatever I needed to get, because that opens the doors for people to pay attention to the producer more. You know, I think the producer is getting way more light now than it was a couple years ago. You know, now people are kind of, it takes time, but people are respecting the producer.
But it's like cyclical though, because I was talking to Toomp, like DJ Toomp, and you know, Toomp was like, bro, I was getting like, everybody in that era, like in the early 90s, we was getting like 100K a beat. Like we was.
I do think, and that's something I was going to say too. I think at that time, the producer was also really important, right? Back in the day, hip hop started with the producer, right? But then there was a time, I feel, where that kind of like just went away, and it was just the artist.
Well, it's because producers aren't branding themselves as like actual artists and musicians. They're sort of just like, I will just take this back part of the music process.
Or they're not the star, right? Because a lot of people look at the artist as, you're the star, you're the one that we're focused on, and everything else is behind the scenes. When in reality, the producer is just as important.
I'm gonna be a star. Like,
there's also there's something to be said about like why certain artists would want to get in the studio with a producer, and I think they base it off of like kind of how you brand yourself as a producer, you know?
Sure.
Like if your Instagram page is riddled with just like you artwork, pointing your phone to your computer, and I don't really know much about you, then like, you know, that can turn some artists off, right?
Right. I mean, like, you think of the past 10 years, like Hit Boy, Metro, Murder, like there's been other producers who had consistent runs of records, like, but where are they? Like, you know, how come it's not featuring them, or how come their Spotify, or they don't have any tapes? You know, it's I be dropping tapes with artists like all the time. I tweeted this, and I didn't I think people kind of took it out of context. Like I said, it was easy, but yo, I would be, especially as soon as I would get a platform, I would be tapping in with whoever I think is one of the hotter indie artists, because that's way easier to clear. And I do like a joint tape, and I would just start building my Spotify out. And there's just so many different ways to like bring in. There's so much money.
There's so much money.
It's funny because we always say, you know, especially as a producer, I wish I was a producer. I'm not. You know what I'm saying?
Same.
But I wish I was, because if I was, there's so many different ways to create revenue. You know, like we were saying, you could put out the kits. You can DJ, you know, you can, you know, obviously publishing, stuff like that. There's so many different options. You can do your own events. You know what I mean? There's like so many, you could sign these you could sign these young producers.
That's a whole nother topic, by the way.
You know what I'm saying?
We don't have to get into it today, but like, that's another thing that I deal with on the legal side. That's like, it reminds me of the artist turned executive. Right. But it's always bad.
It's always bad. It's always bad. Yeah.
So it's almost like, it's tough.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, but I think if you find young talent, if I'm a producer and I see some kid who's like super dope that has 200 followers who I think is like amazing, I'm gonna definitely try to get him under me some way, shape, or form.
But then and then it goes back to
before somebody else gets to him, you know.
And then it goes back to the Megan thing, where it's like, well, now we're doing it again, where we're picking someone with no leverage, and then you know what I mean. So it's a slippery slope, you know.
No, but if you're helping this, like, you know, like we're saying,
exactly.
If I'm helping this person, I'm dumping 6 figures into this person.
Exactly.
When this person was sleeping on my couch,
exactly,
and now they're driving a Bentley. You know what I'm saying?
Trust me,
I mean, we all win. But I also get the flip side of it, where it's like, if I'm an upcoming artist and I didn't know better and I didn't have anybody look at my paperwork and I signed, and then I signed with a bigger, you know, that deal goes bad, and I signed with a bigger, more established lawyer or whatever, and they look like, dude, you're getting screwed. We got to go fix that. Right. So you would want them to go fix that. You know what I'm saying? So there's, you know, the grass is always greener on it. Like, you could see both sides of it depending on which side you're from.
Can't take none of this really personal, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big one. That's a big one. Don't take it personally.
I think Punch tweeted something earlier today where he said something like, look, the industry's basically kind of like the industry. You know, like there are going to be like snakes in the grass, really. And it's always going to be like that.
The music business isn't that much different than any other business, despite the way we sort of talk about the industry in a way that's like, oh, the industry is like that different. It's not.
He tweeted, he said, I wonder if everyone knows that the modern music business is almost a 100-year-old racket, Right. Even if you come into the business with an honest heart, the foundation is crooked, sort of like America. There have been great strides, but the origins are very much present. And that's true. Like, no matter what you do, there's always going to be bad business or bad people one way or the other.
I was a corporate lawyer for a year before I could really, at Bloomberg, before I kind of shifted wholeheartedly into music. And, you know, it's big business for smaller vendors sometimes. And it's like not, so who wins that, right? It's not that different from any aspect of business. But, you know, you're going to win if you got more leverage.
Yeah. It's all about leverage.
Yeah.
It's all someone's going to, you have to compromise again. Compromise. Karl, what's up next? Is there anything coming up that you're working on that you're excited about?
Nah,
that you can mention.
Nah, I mean, more so I'm kind of just like locked in on the deals, you know, what I'm doing and stuff like that. You know, I have my class, and I'm probably going to do, you know, like I said, Philly's in the backyard, so we do a lot of, with Drexel, you know, I did one last month. This one we're going to do a women focused panel on sort of like alternative careers, like, because you know, I've noticed there's like a lot, people think of music business, they think of producer, artist, label, publishing company, but you know, companies like Peloton have music divisions, right? You know, there's a whole bunch of other alternative careers that are pretty dope as well. So I'm gonna have a panel on that, and then you know, me and producer guy, and you know, we got some stuff coming up our sleeves.
Love it.
It's exciting times.
I love it. I'm so proud of you guys. I'm so proud of Producer Grind. I love those guys, man. Like, you guys have built an audience.
Yeah.
And now
Dylan's a goat, man.
He's and now you can use that influence to start giving back to the community.
I mean, they're at that point where you know, they kind of have that influence, and you know I just kind of been helping them sort of, you know, we've been brainstorming just like how do you just, you know, make this bigger for the community, and they're doing it. Those guys are great. Yep.
Yeah, love it. All All right, well, Karl, man, thank you for all the information, man. Sure. Really, really amazing convo. Where can they find you on social media if they want to hit you up?
ESQ Fowlkes, Fowlkes, and that's across like all platforms. But I think I'm about to like chill out for a little bit on social.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
You been saying a lot or what?
Not even that, because
You
like
just want to get away
That
from
shit
it.
is just draining, right?
I don't think I say enough. Like the amount of tweets in my draft that are like, like
the amount of shit that you really want to say.
Yeah.
and I'm noticing I'm getting to that point where I'm like being democratic about what I'm saying. I'm like, bro,
Yeah, no,
I don't help nobody.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna chill for a little bit.
It's good to get off the gram.
Yeah.
You know, it's
And Twitter too, because sometimes when you get those tweets,
Oh,
off,
forget
man,
it.
you just gotta mute people.
Yeah.
You
I've
know?
muted so
You
many
just
people.
start muting.
I did a
You
cleanse
feels
last
good.
night.
Yeah,
I did a
good.
cleanse last
I
night.
definitely did a cleanse a couple months ago.
You gotta do the cleanse.
Muted a couple people.
I do
Blocked
it
a couple
daily.
people.
I do it daily. Like as I'm looking, if I look and I feel a certain way, you're muted.
Yeah, literally. Nah, I do. I swear to God, I do the same thing.
I do
I'm
the
like,
same,
you know what?
like-
I'm tired of you. You're muted.
That's a great
actually.
idea.
Yeah.
And I mute certain words too that I just
You can
don't
mute
want to
words,
see.
which
You
I
can
think
use
is
words.
Like-
I didn't know that.
Like
That's a new
negative,
one.
negative.
Like what word? Like what?
I gotta check. I think there were just certain things trending on Twitter. I'm like
Bad
muted.
vibes.
Yeah.
Twitter just announced they're about to roll out temporary tweets.
Please don't.
Did you hear about that?
Really?
Yeah, so if you tweet, it'll be gone in 24 hours.
It's stories,
Oh,
not
come
tweets.
on.
I think stories.
I don't know if it was tweets or stories.
I think it
but
was stories.
something.
I'm like, we don't
Really?
need that. on
I've heard
Twitter,
there's an edit.
please.
I heard there's an edit thing in the process too about editing tweets.
I think what they should do is allow you one edit.
Allow one
Swear
edit.
to God.
Yeah,
That's
that
a
makes
great
sense.
idea
that
because
shit can
sometimes
change the whole.
Yeah,
thing
it'll
you
change
just
the
said,
whole
though.
app.
Change that one word will
but-
change the whole
no,
thing.
I
but
don't
you
think they
can
should
no, but
change
you
it.
can delete the tweet, so it's
Nah,
the same
Twitter's
thing.
fire right
I
now.
think there are times where you post a
should keep it.
fire tweet and you realize that there was a typo.
Ah,
You know
that's
what I
the
mean?
worst.
Stuff
yeah.
like
Nah,
that.
fuck that. Bring that shit back to 140, bro.
It is 140.
Or
isn't it?
whatever it was before. What was it?
And it was
Was
more.
it once?
No, it was
Less.
less, right?
It was
Yeah,
less.
It was like
Bring
90.
that shit back
Yeah.
to 90. Let's see how this
90.
shit really cracks. You know?
I think 140 is perfect.
Yeah. All right, clap it up, man, for Karl. Thank you so much, brother.